So, are mortgage rates going to go down in 2023? It's a good question, and it matters a lot if you are considering buying a home because let's face it, your mortgage rate is a big determining factor in how much you're paying on a monthly basis. So, today I want to go through an article talking about where they think mortgage rates are heading, if there's ever a chance that we are going to see 3% rates again. And let's take a look at what monthly payments look like at today's rates versus the lowest of the lows that we saw in the past. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm Caitlin McKegg. I am a real estate broker here in Phoenix, Arizona, and always looking at data here, not only for real estate locally, but also with the economy. So let's look at this article here. Mortgage rates won't go back down to 3% in my lifetime, says real estate expert. And here's why. So, spoiler alert, the answer is no. Not for 2023, probably not ever. If you're a U.S. homebuyer waiting for a return to super low mortgage rates, don't hold your breath. The short-lived era of 3% interest rates for 30-year fixed mortgages is over and unlikely to return anytime soon, perhaps for decades. This is coming from Lawrence Yun, the chief economist at National Association of Realtors. I have heard a lot from him over the years, and a very, very smart man who's been in the business a long time and obviously looks at things from the economic perspective, which is super helpful. One can never truly predict the future, but I don't see mortgage rates returning back to the 3% in the remainder of my lifetime. So this talks about how historically the rates have been closer to an average of 7% over the last 50 years. And I know that's hard to believe, but when we started seeing rates going up last year, I took a look at this chart to see what is normal, right? Because we got so used to these wonderful 3%, 4% rates. I remember when I was refinancing my house around the time we had low rates, it was like, what? I can't get lower than 3.2? Are you kidding me? So let's take a look here. This is this chart of historic interest rates. Now, everyone talks about the 80s. That was yucky. But let's look over here. So this is 2020, 2021. This is where we were seeing the lowest rates. Look at how different this is to the last 50 years. That is absolutely the lowest point. And when you look across this, just, giving it a glance without even looking at the numbers, somewhere in this range seems to be average. We had a lot of years like that over here. And where are we at? We're around 7. I think I had read an article a while back that it was like 7.3 or 7.4 is the historical average. However, this article is saying 7. But, and here we are today, right along that same line there. So we're meeting the historical average, even though 7% feels really rough compared to what we were used to. So this goes on to say what basically happened with rates, right? We had the pandemic, we had economic uncertainty, and what happened was the Fed slashed the interest rates to nearly zero. So they're talking about the federal funds rate went to nearly zero, created emergency lending programs, and bought government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, otherwise known as quantitative easing. So since rates or mortgage rates are closely linked to the Fed's benchmark interest rate and can be driven further down by quantitative easing, the interest on mortgages subsequently hit rock bottom at 2.67% in January of 2021. We're going to take a look at what that rate and payment looks like with the median home price during that time, because I was just curious to see it. But congrats to you if you are someone who bought in January of 2021. You timed things very well in terms of interest rate. So this continues to say what happened. Unlike 2008, the economy recovered quickly and rising inflation became a problem. We've been talking about this for a little while, and by spring of 2021, year-over-year inflation had accelerated beyond the Fed's benchmark of 2%. So then we've been going through these interest rate hikes, as you guys know, and that has affected our mortgage rates, and we are going back up with rates. So it's unlikely that the Federal Reserve will respond with the same breadth and aggressiveness as it did in 2020. So even if we saw some economic changes where they felt like they needed to ease off, it's not going to be as aggressive is what they're saying. That was very unique circumstances. Haven't seen mortgage rates that low in 30 years in the business. So basically, bottom line of this article is no, we are not seeing 3% rates ever again, or at least for a very, very long time. So if you're someone who's waiting for those rates to go back down to that range, probably not the best thing to be waiting for that, because that's not going to happen. Now, waiting for, prices to adjust or saving more or, whatever it is, that all makes sense, but don't hold on to hope that we're going to see 3% rates again. Let's just talk briefly about what's going on with rates this week. Mortgage rates may have spiked to the highest levels in roughly 8 months, 2 weeks ago, but they fully recovered as of last Thursday. Since then, very little has happened, and even less has changed about the 30-year conventional rate for top tier scenarios. So there hasn't been much movement in rates since last week. We saw them go down a little bit, which was great news. And now things are just a little bit boring in mortgage rate world. However, next week, we will probably see some changes, and that's what this is talking about. The Fed's announcement, not because the Fed's going to surprise anyone by doing an interest rate hike, because we all anticipate that's what's going to happen, but rather we're going to be getting some economic data in the next 2 weeks. Powell's going to be speaking about really if the collective assessment of inflation has changed in the last 6 weeks. So that's going to be the big news next week, and whether or not we see some change with interest rates based on that. So that's where we're at today, but let's just take a look for fun at where we are at with the median home prices as it relates to rates. So today our median home price here in Phoenix is $443,000, and I wanted to see what that payment looks like when you are using the interest rate that is common today, depending on qualifications, of course, but about 6.78% if we're looking at just pulled it off this chart here, July 20th, 6.78%. Okay, so putting that in, saying you're putting 10% or 20% down. So your monthly payment for the median home price is about $2,663. Now, this is not that cut and dry, right? There's a lot of other factors to look at in terms of like HOA, property taxes, things like that. But just, for funsies, we're taking a look at this. Now, if you were someone who bought your home in Phoenix in January of 2021, when those rates were beautiful, and even though prices felt high, they were lower than they are today, let's look at what you got. 339, looking back here, 339 January of 2021, yes. And here we are. You got $1,384 as a payment. This is 20% down payment, 30 years, and that 2.67 interest rate. That just sounds so sweet. So $1,384 would be your payment versus the $2,663 today. And the $1,300 difference per month, that's a lot. That's a huge difference. But let's say rates went down today, but prices did not go down. So let's just put in that, 2.67, and let's see what that looks like with today's prices. $1,789. So, about 4,000 or 400 more per month with than what we're looking at if you bought for a lower home price. However, we've got a pretty big difference of $900 per month when we're looking at the difference in interest rate compared to that 6.87? I can't remember exactly. Either way, roughly in there, 2684. So pretty big difference when you look at rates and then, of course, prices as well. So they play together. You have to keep an eye on both to really understand what your payment's going to look like and interest rate can make a really big difference. But once we get prices that are just so high and unattainable, that's going to make things unaffordable as well. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to go over today. You guys, if you are considering buying a home or you don't know, what you can afford, look in the description below. You can reach out to request some information about lenders that we recommend. We can also help you determine what area of the valley might be best based on your price point, your budget, or just even your comfort level with what you're looking for in terms of a payment. So feel free to reach out to us. All the information is in the description below. We also have a link where you can check your instant home value, and you can search our MLS for homes for sale. So make sure to check that stuff out. Comment below, you guys. I want to know, do you think rates will ever go back to 3% or around there? Will we see that again in our lifetime? I want to hear from you. Thanks for joining me. I will be back on Monday for a Monday market update, so don't miss it. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'm Caitlin McKegg.